A family name is typically a part of a person's personal name which, according to law or custom, is passed or given to children from one or both of their parents' family names. The use of family names is common in most cultures around the world, with each culture having its own rules as to how these names are formed, passed and used. But the practice is not universal, with some cultures not using family names. Also, in most Slavic countries and in Greece, for example, there are different family name forms for male and female members of the family. Issues of family name arise especially on the passing of a name to a newborn child, on the adoption of a common family name, on marriage, on renouncing of a family name, and on changing of a family name. Most countries have laws requiring its citizens and those resident within its jurisdiction to have a family name. Traditionally, in many European countries for the past few hundred years, it was the custom or law that a woman would on marriage use the surname of her husband and that children of a man would have the father's surname. If a child's paternity was not known, or if the putative father denied paternity, the newborn child would have the surname of the mother. That is still the custom and law in many countries. The surname for children of married parents is usually inherited from the father. In recent years there has been a trend towards equality of treatment in relation to family names, with women not being automatically required or expected, some places even forbidden, to take the husband's surname on marriage, and children not automatically being given the father's surname. In this article, family name and surname both mean the patrilineal surname, handed down from or inherited from the father's line, or patrilineal, unless explicitly stated otherwise. Thus, the term maternal surname means the patrilineal surname which one's mother inherited from either or both of her parents. For a discussion of matrilineal surnames, passing from mothers to daughters, see matrilineal surname. Overview. In many cultures, the family name is normally the last part of a person's personal name. In some other cultures, the family name comes first. The latter is often called the Eastern Order because Europeans are most familiar with the examples from East Asia, specifically Japan, China, Korea and Vietnam. The Eastern Order is also used in Hungary, Romania and in parts of Africa. Since family names are normally written last in European societies, the term last name is commonly used for family name, while in Japan the family name may be referred to as upper name. In English-speaking cultures, family names are often used by children when referring to adults, but it's also used to refer to someone in authority, the elderly, or in a formal setting, and are often used with a title or honorific such as Mr., Mrs., Ms., Miss, Doctor, and so on. Generally the given name of first name, forename, or personal name is the one used by friends, family, and other intimates to address an individual. It may also be used by someone who is in some way senior to the person being addressed. This practice also differs between cultures. CTV distinction. Research on individual names. The study of proper names in family names is called onomastics. A one-name study is a collection of vital and other biographical data about all persons worldwide sharing a particular surname. History. While given names have been used from the most distant times to identify individuals, the advent of surnames is a relatively recent phenomenon. In Britain, hereditary surnames were adopted in the 13th and 14th centuries, initially by the aristocracy but eventually by everyone. By 1400, most English and some Scottish people used surnames, but many Scottish and Welsh people did not adopt surnames until the 17th century, or even later. Henry VIII ordered that marital births be recorded under the surname of the father. In England and cultures derived from there has long been a tradition for a woman to change her surname upon marriage from her birth name to her husband's family name. The first known instance in the United States of a woman insisting on the use of her birth name was that of Lucy Stone in 1855, and there has been a general increase in the rate of women using their birth name. This has gone through periods of flux, however, and the 1990s saw a decline in the percentage of name retention among women. As of 2006, more than 80% of American women adopted their husband's family name after marriage. Many cultures have used and continue to use additional descriptive terms in identifying individuals. These terms may indicate personal attributes, location of origin, occupation, parentage, patronage, adoption, or clan affiliation. These descriptors often developed into fixed clan identifications, which in turn became family names as we know them today. In China, according to legend, family names started with Emperor Fuxi in 2852 BC. His administration standardized the naming system in order to facilitate census taking and the use of census information. For scientific documentation that matrilineal surnames existed in China before the Shang dynasty, and that by the time of the Shang dynasty they had become patrilineal. See matrilineality in China. In Japan, family names were uncommon except among the aristocracy until the 19th century. In ancient Greece, during some periods, formal identification commonly included place of origin. At other times clan names and patronymics were also common, as in Aristide's Lysimachou. For example, Alexander the Great was known as Heracleides and by the dynastic name Caranus, which referred to the founder of the dynasty to which he belonged. In none of these cases, though, were these names considered essential parts of the person's name, nor were they explicitly inherited in the manner which is common in many cultures today. In the Roman Empire, the bestowal and use of clan and family names waxed and waned with changes in the various subcultures of the realm. At the outset, they were not strictly inherited in the way that family names are inherited in many cultures today. Eventually, though, family names began to be used in a manner similar to most modern European societies. With the gradual influence of Greek Christian culture throughout the empire, the use of formal family names declined. By the time of the fall of the Western Roman Empire in the 5th century, family names were uncommon in the Eastern Roman Empire. In Western Europe, where Germanic culture dominated the aristocracy, family names were almost non-existent. They would not significantly reappear again in Eastern Roman society until the 10th century. Apparently influenced by the familial affiliations of the Armenian military aristocracy, the practice of using family names spread through the Eastern Roman Empire and gradually into Western Europe. Although it was not until the modern era that family names came to be explicitly inherited as they are today. In Ireland, the use of surnames has a very old history. Ireland was the first country in Europe to use fixed surnames. As noted in the annals, the first recorded fixed surname was O'Clery, which recorded the death of Tyanichu O'Clery, Lord of Aegina in Co. Galway in the year 916. In England, the introduction of family names is generally attributed to the preparation of the Domesday Book in 1086, following the Norman conquest. Evidence indicates that surnames were first adopted among the feudal nobility and gentry, and only slowly spread to other parts of society. Some of the early Norman nobility who arrived in England during the Norman conquest differentiated themselves by affixing «de» before the name of their village in France. This is what is known as a territorial surname, a consequence of feudal land ownership. In medieval times in France, such a name indicated lordship, or ownership, of the village. But some early Norman nobles in England chose to drop the French derivations and call themselves instead after their New English holdings. Modern era. During the modern era, many cultures around the world adopted family names, particularly for administrative reasons. Especially during the age of European expansion and particularly since 1600. Notable examples include the Netherlands, Japan, Thailand, and Turkey. Nonetheless, their use is not universal. Icelanders, Tibetans, Burmese, Javanese, and many people groups in East Africa do not use family names. Family names sometimes change or are replaced by non-family names, surnames under political pressure to avoid persecution. Examples are the cases with Chinese Indonesians and Chinese Thais after migration there during the 20th century, or the Jews who fled to different European countries to avoid persecution from the Nazis during World War II. The United States followed the naming customs and practices of English common law and traditions until recent times. Beginning in the latter half of the 20th century, traditional naming practices, writes one commentator, were recognized as coming into conflict with current sensitivities about children's and women's rights. Those changes accelerated a shift away from the interests of the parents to a focus on the best interests of the child. The law in this area continues to evolve today, mainly in the context of paternity and custody actions. UN Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women in 1979. The United Nations adopted the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, which declared in effect that women and men, and specifically wife and husband, shall have the same rights to choose a family name, as well as of profession, and of occupation. For a further description of and treatment of this convention, see matroname. In France, until the 1st of January 2005, children were required by law to take the surname of their father. Article 311-21 of the French Civil Code now permits parents to give their children the family name of either their father, mother, or a hyphenation of both, although no more than 2 names can be hyphenated. In cases of disagreement, the father's name applies. This brought France into line with the 1978 declaration by the Council of Europe requiring member governments to take measures to adopt equality of rights in the transmission of family names, a measure that was echoed by the United Nations in 1979. Similar measures were adopted by Germany, Sweden, Denmark and Spain. The European community has been active in eliminating gender discrimination. Several cases concerning discrimination in family names have reached the courts. Birgit v. Switzerland challenged the lack of an option for husbands to add the wife's surname to his surname, which they had chosen as the family name, when this option was available for women. Lawson C. Rose and Rose v. Switzerland challenged a prohibition on foreign men married to Swiss women keeping their surname if this option was provided in their national law, an option available to women. Unaltekeli v. Turkey challenged prohibitions on women using their surname as the family name, an option only available to men. The court found all these laws to be in violation of the convention.